Coming to you direct from Silencer Shop Studios, home of the Glass Case of Emotion.
SilencerShop.com, the easiest way to buy silencers online, period.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for taking the opportunity and the time to be with us today. And I'm taking a serious career risk. I'm taking a professional risk here because this is Student of the Gun episode 666. And Jared and I and Zachary and I, all of us, we had a conversation. We saw, we do the shows and we just start piling them on top of each other. We get to 600 and, I don't even think Jared, did we even celebrate or acknowledge the episode 600? Or did we just drive on?
We probably just drove on.
We acknowledged 500, I remember, and we'll acknowledge 1,000, 200, and but we're just driving on, man. We're just like producing material, like over and over and over. And it was about a week or so ago. Zachary said, he goes, episode 666 is coming up, right? And he said, I said, yeah, and he said, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to skip it? And Jared and I had that conversation too. It's like, well, do we skip it and just pretend that there is no 666 and just move on? And the initial, it's like the 13th floor thing in hotels and for, generations and generations, they would just go 12, 14. There would be no 13th floor and stuff like that. And Apollo 13 was an unlucky flight, all that. And so I said to Jared, being the thoughtful individual that I tend to be, because the first thing was, we'll just skip it. We'll just go right to 667 and move on and just pretend like it never happened and so forth. I said, no, we're not going to do that. And there's a reason. There is a very specific and deliberate reason that we're not skipping it. That Student of the Gun Radio is going to deliberately have an episode 666. It has nothing to do with the upcoming of Halloween or anything like that, or heavy metal or what have you. But as we progress, it's going to be the main topic of the day. Now, of course, welcome to a brand new week. Welcome to Monday. And because it's Monday, well, we're going to have a SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week. And this is a topic it wasn't really hard for me to choose this one, because this is something that comes up rather frequently. Because men and women are different creatures. No matter what the liberals in the left wing and the social justice warriors of the world will tell you, men are not the same as women, and women are not the same as men. And it's a good thing. It is a positive thing. It is part of nature. Go all the way back to, you can go back to European philosophy or Eastern philosophy, but men and women are supposed to be different because they complement each other. But it's often difficult for men to get there. Jared, were we not just talking about this in the car on the way back from the High Bar Homestead?
Yeah.
What did we say about the whole, women will say, like if you say to women, she's like, I don't understand. A woman will say, I don't understand why you would do that, or why you want to do that, or why you need to do that thing. And you say, and being completely and totally honest, you say, well, yeah, I don't expect you to understand you are a woman. Oh, what are you saying? Women are stupid, and women are incapable of understanding, and women. All right, A, pull your panties out, and B, if a woman says to a man, you're not going to understand, it's a woman thing, you aren't going to understand it. What does a man do? Does a man say, what am I, stupid? No, a man says, yeah, you're right. I don't understand. It is a woman thing, and that's real.
It's because our brains work with logic first.
And emotion second.
Second, and it's the opposite for women.
Unless you've had too much soy in your diet, and then you become a mangina. Get the soy out of your diet. Men, stop eating soy. Right now, read the ingredients in your food. Stop eating soy. It's turning you weak. Okay? That's your nutritional tip for today. But yeah, it's funny how a woman can say to a man, you wouldn't understand, it's a woman thing, and that's not racist or sexist at all. That's not sexist at all, right? But if a man says to a woman, you wouldn't understand, I'm a man, you're a woman, or it's a man thing or whatever, then it's degrading or sexist or belittling or whatever. It's a double standard and it's bullcrap, and I'm not going to have any of that here. So without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into our SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week. And Jared, do you want to tell them what they need to do if they want to be the Warrior of the Week, and when they're the winner, what they have to do?
Yeah, if you want to be the Warrior of the Week, just call 844-207-7684. Now, I would recommend before calling, rehearse your question, write it down, or something like that. Then you call that number, and you leave that clear and concise question, or you can just read it off the paper that you just wrote it down on, which would probably be the best option.
Think about that, huh?
Yep.
Crazy. It's like rehearsal.
Yep. And now if you hear your question and your voice on Student of the Gun Radio, then all you have to do is email info@studentofthegun.com, and that's going to be going directly to Alex. You include your name, your mailing address, your phone number, and your email typed into the body, and it's really just that simple.
Recently, my wife has started telling everyone that it's a good idea to carry a gun and that they should carry a gun themselves. She understands the importance of firearms for self-defense and even has agreed to take fighting pistol with me at tactical response. However, she refuses to carry a gun and says that she will not be able to shoot somebody if that time comes. Do you have any advice for me as it would pertain to getting her more comfortable with the idea so that we can make sure that she's safe? Thank you.
Well, absolutely, I have advice for you. Now, but first things first, I want to, just in case you're new to Student of the Gun Radio and you're listening to this SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week and you're like, hey, what's SWAT Fuel? Hey, it is a nutritional supplement company that wants you to have a sharper mind and a stronger body. And what does Mike get? We didn't even say what he gets because he's the winner. He's the winner. So
I had to put my pop filter back in. So today, I'll give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes here. I forgot my plug-in for my phone, so I had to hold the speaker up to the microphone.
Did you really?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to do that. And it actually sounded pretty good, so there's that.
Butthead.
Yeah, so you get a free bottle of 9mm plus P from SWAT Fuel, and that's the endurance formula. If you guys have been following Student of the Gun for a while, you'll know that we've used this in many, many different cases.
Many ways.
Yep. I've used it for training. I've used it for editing video. I've used it for driving. Man, I've used it for pretty much everything. But you get the free bottle of 9mm plus P if you follow the instructions I gave you before I played your question.
There you go. And if you weren't the winner today, that's cool. You can still go to SWATfuelstore.com. Shop around. Pick up the new SWAT box. It's everything you need for your fitness regime. And you use the promo code. Please. Well, you don't have to. I don't care if you do or not. I mean, you're your own man or woman. But if you want to use the promo code SOTG 2015, you're going to save some money. All right, now to the question of how do we get our women thinking right? How do we get our women thinking right? And what I will say to you is don't sweat it. Don't panic. Because the question I just heard, it was like, what do I do? Do you have any advice? She's agreed to go to tactical response with me to take fighting pistol. Okay. By that, I take it that this has not happened yet, that this is something that's going to happen in the future. You can't really judge someone's behavior and thoughts and opinions based upon what they say prior to education, prior to training. You say, well, I'm going to go to this school sometime, but this is my thoughts on that subject now. Well, your thoughts on the subject now and your thoughts on the subject after you get the experience and the education and the skill are not necessarily going to be the same when they shouldn't be the same.
And Mike, your question was, what can you do to help change her mind? And the short answer is you can't do anything.
Yeah, the short answer is you're not going to be able to do much because I'm guessing she's probably seen you naked. And once that happens, you are no longer an expert at anything. You're just a knucklehead that you're like a friendly puppy that they really love, but they don't put any stock in their opinion. So believe me, brothers, I've been doing this for a living my entire adult life. And I have a beloved spouse that still questions what I have to say on the subject.
She will forever.
This is what I do, okay? This is I devote my entire life to the study of conflict resolution, mostly ballistic conflict resolution. And I still get the, well, why do you think that? Or I think. Well, first of all, I wouldn't want a woman that was bloodthirsty. I wouldn't want a woman that right out of the bat's like, yeah, I'm going to kill a son bitch or whatever, or I'm going to smoke that joker or whatever. You want your women are supposed to be the calming effect. They're supposed to be the nurturer. I don't want my woman to be that way, but we also want them to be safe. When we're not there, we want to understand and know that, just because I'm not there doesn't mean my wife is going to be a helpless victim. And I don't want that, obviously. You don't want that for your wives or daughters or whatever. Guys, don't get really bunged up about, and here's the thing, people say a lot of stuff when they're not involved in that situation. I'm going to assume that your wife probably has not been involved in several life or death decision-making events. Most Americans never find themselves in a life or death decision-making event, in a situation where they must make a decision, and that decision will either cause them to live and survive and continue to breathe, or their lack of a decision or their wrong decision will cause them to be maimed and or killed. Very few humans have to go through that. And so, but what will people do? Jared, people all the time have opinions. They're like, oh, well, if it was me, if I was ever in that situation, here's what I would do. And I laugh at that because you're basing that upon nothing. You're basing that upon your feelings at the moment. Feelings. Basing decisions on feelings. Well, I think, here's the deal. You don't know, and you won't know. Now, if you have, can we train to a standard? Yes, we can. I've seen that for going on 30 years now. I've witnessed people who were trained and skilled and had what they call stress inoculation. The first time that you have a gun in your hand and your heart is beating and you're focused and stressed and sweating, if that first time is when someone is attempting to kill you, it's going to be a pretty tough uphill battle for you. Now, if you've previously been in a situation where it was difficult and hard and you were stressed and your heart was beating and you were breathing heavy and, then when it's real, I can tell you this, that there are units in the world, there are military units and a few law enforcement units that train to such an extent that combat is actually easier than training. You're like, oh, that's bull crap. That's bull crap. That can never be. Okay, if you're saying that, you're basing that upon ignorance and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I have been in life or death combat, and I've been with people who've been in life or death combat, and we do training. There are some training regimes that are so difficult, so arduous, that by the time the real thing comes, the real thing is done and over with, and you're like, man, that wasn't as hard as it was in training. Exactly. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and it was the same way, like when I was doing the martial arts cage fighting, it would be the same thing, man. The fight was only, 15 to 20, 25 minutes, whatever. But the training sessions were like hours each day. So by the time you get to the actual fight, people are like, "Oh, that must have been hard." I'm like, "No, actually, that was fun."
Actually, the boxing match was more fun than training for it was. The fight is actually more fun than the lead up. What's harder, getting in the cage or cutting weight for the weigh in?
The weight cut. Which now looking back with all the stuff that I know, I'm like, why would you even do that? You have less strength if you cut weight, but that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic. But our point is this. What I want to tell you is, and if you're in a similar situation where you have a spouse, you have a beloved, a mom, a wife, or whatever, if you have a husband that says that, you need to find a man. And I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there, right there. Okay, yeah. If you're listening and you're a wife and you're like, that's exactly what my husband says, I could never do that. The selection process was off a little bit there. I'm just going to say it. Okay. But if you're in a similar situation like our friend, like, don't panic, don't sweat it. People say a lot of things when it's just a notional idea, when it's just a thought process. Now, are there people in the world that actually could not pull the trigger and could not defend themselves and would freeze up or would try and read them a chapter of The Purpose-Driven Life or whatever? Yeah, there are. But it sounds to me like your wife is on the right track. And what I need you to do is, this is what's going to happen. You take her to training, you go with her, you're going to pay for her food and lodging, but you're not going to train her. You're going to be standing on the other side of the range, and professional instructors are going to be training her. Okay? That's what's going to happen. I know, based on experience. So don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Take care of the skill. Get the education. Get the training. Get the skill. And then once that, it's all right. Wives and girlfriends that you don't want bloodthirsty girlfriends. Okay, you don't want bloodthirsty wives. You want them to be hesitant. Trust me on that. But let her come under the tutelage of somebody else, and it'll be good. All right. Does that sound good to you, Jared? Should I add any more to that subject? I know you're over there. I don't know what you're doing, but you're hiding behind your screen.
I'm hiding over here. No, I think that's pretty good. I think he got his answer. What do you think?
I think so too. Well, speaking of women, I should drink some water and let another one talk.
Attention, new listeners. We produced a free training video series called 7 Training Tips That Could Save Your Life. We want you to have access to this life-saving information. Get instant access now at studentofthegun.com. Do you watch Student of the Gun TV, read the blog, and follow us on Facebook? If you answered no to any of those questions, you are wrong, but you can easily fix yourself. Go to studentofthegun.com to find everything SOTG.
Yes, that is what you can and should do. You should go to studentofthegun.com for everything SOTG. And if you're not following us on social media, if you're not following us on Instagram, we don't have 10,000 followers on Instagram yet, and that's wrong.
WTF?
We should. WTF, folks. DAF. What is it? DAFUQ?
Yeah.
DAFUQ. So if you have the Instagrammage on your phone and you have not selected Student of the Gun to follow, you're wrong and you need to fix yourself. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Crossbreed Holsters makes what? Well, they make all kinds of stuff. They make the Super Tuck Deluxe. They make the Pack Mat, and they make the Freedom Carry and all kinds of things. You want to be a gun carrier? You want to carry a gun all the time, comfortably, have it on you and ready when you need it? You do? Well, good. Go to crossbreedholsters.com, see what they have to offer. Froglube Green, minty fresh. It is extreme. And it will go to at least 0. We know that. Now, do you want it dripping off the gun? No, not necessarily. But what you do want to do is you want to strip it down, get all the oil and petroleum off of it, apply the Froglube, drive on. And you can get it from them at froglube.com or anywhere you want. You're an American. Century Arms is the sweetest smelling arms maker in the U.S. of A. And they're constantly running discounts and sales and all kinds of jazz. You want to know what's going on? It's really tough. Go to centuryarms.com and follow the instructions from there. I know, it's crazy, right? DuraCoat, why? Because life is too short to have an ugly gun. It's just as simple as that. Now, you can get DuraCoat products from the parent company. Now, the parent company of DuraCoat is a brand, and DuraCoat has all kinds of things. They've got gun bluing. You can redo a stock. You can Duradize, which looks like anodizing. You can do the Dura Blue and all that jazz. But go to Lauer Weaponry, Lauer, weaponry.com, and browse to your heart's content. Yes, indeed. And last but certainly not least, they're good friends at Brownells. Brownells is, I don't know what special they're running today, but I can almost guarantee you that either this weekend or today they were running either a discount code or a promo code, or they had sales on optics or sales on lowers or sales on parts or sales on whatever. You know how you can find out about all that? Just sign up for their newsletter and drive on, move on with your life. So in the morning when you're sipping your coffee, you open up your email and you're like, ooh, Brownells has got AR-15 parts on sale today. Ooh, check. There you go. It's really as simple as that. All right, it is time for us to get into the meat of the story.
Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast with wrath, because he knows the time is short. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666.
All right, for all of you young crumb crunchers out there in the audience who are not hip to that, that was Iron Maiden, from The Number of the Beast from 1982. Yes, I used to listen to that on a spinning black vinyl disc. Yes, we had these things, and they rotated at 33 1/3, and music came out of them. A lot of people think, oh, that's devil worship and music and no devil worship. Yeah, okay, all right. How many of you know that part of what that was Vincent Price right there, the indomitable Vincent Price, who has long since left us, but how many of you know that was a direct quote? That was a Bible. It was a biblical quote. Oh, man. All the Southern Baptist ministers in the 1980s were like, rock and roll music is the devil's music, and we have proof this band from England's the devil. Okay. Revelation 13:18, the King James Version says, "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666." That's so old school stuff right there. Let's go to the American Standard Version. "Here is wisdom. He that hath understanding, let him count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and it is 666. 666. I've never heard it say 60 before. But, folks, yes, that is a biblical reference right there. Now, there's another quote, and many of you who are cinephiles, people who are fans of the cinema, believe that this quote was originated from a movie, the movie called The Usual Suspects, and that the first person to ever say it was Kevin Spacey, but that is not true at all. The person to whom this quote could be rightly attributed is Charles Baudelaire. Charles Baudelaire, or Baudelaire, depending on your pronunciation of the French language. Charles Baudelaire. It says, "The devil's finest trick is to persuade you that he does not exist." And that was loosely quoted in the movie The Usual Suspect. Usually people say the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing you people that he didn't exist. But the direct quote, and I've got it here from Goodreads.com, quotable quotes. "The devil's finest trick is to persuade you that he does not exist." And you say, what does that have to do with today's episode? What does that have to do with 666? What does that have to do with evil exists? Well, I'm going to tell you, and I'm glad that you asked. Liberalism must erase the existence of evil in order to embed and replace it with their own evil. If you consider, and liberalism is just an offshoot, is a modern offshoot of socialism. Liberalism is also a mental disease. But in liberalism, there is no good and there is no bad. It's just how you feel and what you want to do. Because if we accept the existence of evil, if we acknowledge the existence of evil in the world, did you ever wonder how it is that liberals can make excuses for the existence of ISIS or the 7th century death cult or the Muslim missionaries spreading their religion of peace and love and brotherhood throughout the world by doing what? By performing acts of kindness? No, actually, the reason, and a lot of people, Jared, ever realize that a lot of people don't get the sarcasm in the Muslim missionary comment? They don't understand it. They're like, what do you mean? You're like, you keep saying Muslim missionaries, but they're like, what? Oh, there are no Muslim missionaries, right? Because the religion of peace and brotherhood is not about caring for people. If you don't agree with them, they cut your head off. They run you over with a truck. They send somebody in with a bomb strapped to their body. They walk into your office building with AKs and mow you down. That's what happens when you don't agree with them. And I think I would hope that everyone in my audience right now would agree that strapping a bomb to a person, to a monster, and having them walk into a pop music concert filled with little little teenage girls and prepubescent girls, and then detonating it and blowing them to pieces so that our daughters and wives and sisters are now maimed and dead in a public place, that's evil. Can we acknowledge that? Can we all come together and say that is an act of evil? Driving a truck through a crowded street, a crowded sidewalk, and running over scores of people and maiming them and killing them, that's an act of evil. Can we all, acknowledge that? And yet, after every single one of these acts of evil, these isolated incidents of evil that keep happening over and over and over again, they're committed by representatives from the same death cult, that there are people that would come out of the woodwork and try and justify that evil, try and justify that behavior. Think about how sick that is and how twisted that is. And you say, oh, no, there's just like one or two people in the world that would do that. No. After the attacks on 9/11, after the initial shock war over, the intelligentsia of the world, they came forward and they're like, well, we need to examine the events of 9/11 and ask ourselves, what did we do to bring that about? Is there something we could have done to prevent that from? And they don't mean finding evil and destroying it. They mean altering our behavior so that people won't kill us. And in the mind of the liberal, see, liberalism and socialism go hand in hand. How does the state gain control over the people? There are two things that have to be destroyed, two things that have to be nullified. The family and the church. The church,
yeah. Ignorance, distraction, and guilt was stuck in my brain.
No.
And that's not it.
There's two groups, there's two organizations, there's two main forms of influence that have to be nullified in order for the state to take control, in order for the state to be set up as the daddy, as the all-powerful Oz, the all-knowing and all-powerful. And that is the church and the nuclear family, the mom and the dad and the grandmas and the grandpas and the aunts and uncles. We cannot have children or people being influenced by their family, and we certainly cannot have them being influenced by the church or their faith, because if they have that to fall back on, they are not good victims for the state. That's the first thing that the state does in socialism and liberalism. Like we said, they're hand in hand. They're two sides of the same coin.
You mean kind of like suspending a 5-year-old for talking about a bomb in his backpack?
Yeah, even though they violated their own rules, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have to minimize, reduce the influence of the church, and the best way to do that is to convince people that the church is outdated and this whole notion of good and evil doesn't really apply to our modern world, because we have iPhones and we have the internet and we have the what do we call it, the tech revolution. We have everything we want on demand. We are the most comfortable, uncomfortable people to ever live on this planet. We have more crap to distract us than ever before.
I would say we have everything we want or need except for families and churches.
Mm-hmm. Except for stability. But because when you convince people that, this whole notion of good and evil, what that is that's a group. That's these Christians trying to force their way of thinking on you. They're trying to force the idea or the concept of sin on you. And that's wrong, because anything you want to do, and I'm speaking as a liberal here, anything you want to do is your right to do it. You want to fornicate with a desk lamp? Okay, you want to wake up in the morning and walk outside and tell the world, you're a 38-year-old man, but you want to wake up in the morning and walk outside and tell the world that you're no longer a man, you're a girl. And everyone has to call you she or Susan or whatever. And if they don't, they're violating your rights because you want to do that. You in the United States of America, if you're a dude and you want to wake up in the morning and put on a dress, you're allowed to do that. But I don't have to think that you're a woman. I don't have to change my way of thinking. If you want to, all right, I really feel like this is bizarre for me to have to say this, Jared, but the 10 Commandments were written, and the first 3 have to do with man's relationship to God, and all the rest of them are man's relationship to his fellow man. That's why those guidelines and rules are put in place, because you need these rules in order to have a functioning society, a functioning community. It has to be wrong. It has to be malum in se, right? A moral wrong. We have to put these things in place so that, you understand that you cannot have a functional society or community unless we follow these rules. No committing murder. Okay, check. No stealing. Check. No lying. Check. No fornicating with your neighbor's wife. Check. You're like, oh, come on, man. Check. And so on and so forth. And the reason is, and you say, but we pretty much follow those now. I mean, kind of for the most part we do. But yet, Jared, we have people today, we have liberal writers, we have liberal reporters and intelligentsia that want to write articles about how sometimes it's good to lie. Bill Clinton, caught in lies. And I know a lot of you guys don't remember this because, we have the American population has the memory span or the short-term memory of a housefly. But, Bill Clinton gets caught in lies. And rather than saying lying is wrong and lying to the American people by a president is wrong, what we had the liberal intelligentsia writing articles, doing special news pieces on CNN and so forth about how, yes, you may have been taught when you were a child by your parents that lying is wrong, but we have some psychologists and psychiatrists and people that are way smarter than you because you're a dunderhead that have, they've come out and they're going to explain to you why sometimes lying is a good thing. And why did that happen? Well, because we had a president that was caught lying directly to Congress and to the American people. But the president was a liberal. The president was a socialist. And so we got to run cover for the socialists. So what are we going to do? We're going to write stories about how sometimes it's okay to lie, and lies are actually good. Most recently, we saw natural disaster. We saw natural disasters in Florida. We saw natural disasters in Texas, up and down the coast. And we witnessed inner city thuggery. We witnessed the parasites of our world, of our communities, taking advantage of a disaster, taking advantage of a crisis to steal, to commit acts of theft, right? And what follows hot on the heels of that? We can't just condemn that. No, because if you accept the notion of right and wrong and good and evil, then what good? You don't have the power over the people. So there were actually articles written, I shared them with you guys, about how sometimes stealing is okay. Like if you need to feed your family. Of course, they just glossed over the whole, how are you supposed to feed your family with a carload of stolen Nikes? How are you supposed to feed your family with flat screen TVs? Or remember when they, in Ferguson, when they broke into the weave shop and they were stealing the weaves? How do you feed your family with a weave?
That'll help me sell my services to my community and make some money to help buy food for my family.
Yeah. All right. How is he supposed to get school money for school clothes if he doesn't break into people's houses and rob them? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, evil does exist. And every day there is one side of the equation. There's one group, a loosely organized group of socialists and liberals that will try and convince you that your notion of good and your notion of good and bad and right and wrong is incorrect. And that what you're trying to do is you're just trying to impose your own morality upon them. And that evil doesn't actually exist. There is no right and wrong. It's only how you feel and what you want to do. And if you were to ask a good liberal, a faithful, honest liberal, if there was such a thing, if you were to catch them in a moment of honesty, they would tell you that good is whatever it is that you want to do. You want to, we've got a hurricane and a crisis, and the community, the state is in a state of crisis. Good is going downtown, smashing the windows out of a liquor store and stealing everything you can get your hands on, because it's your right to do that. Good is fornicating with whatever you want to fornicate with, desk lamps, house plants, whatever. Good is, I'm gonna poison the brain of these little kindergarten kids by reading them stories about how, even though they woke up this morning and saw, took a bath or whatever, and they have a pee-pee or a hoo-hoo dilly or whatever, well, you might not really be a boy because you didn't want to be a boy. You want to be a girl. Yeah, but you're born with testicles. Well, that doesn't mean you have to be a boy. Yes, it kind of does. But the psychotic liberalism of there is no good and bad. It's just what you want to do. And ultimately, anything that you want to do, any way that you want to behave, regardless of how it impacts upon others, is good. And the only time that there's actually evil or bad in the world is if somebody questions your choices. If somebody questions your behavior. If someone says, hey, it's probably not a great idea for a large segment of our population to riot and steal from the other segment. Oh, you're wrong. You're racist. You're bigoted. It's probably not a good idea to poison the minds of our children with this transgenderism. Oh, you're wrong. You're a bad person. You're trying to impose your morals upon others. Ladies and gentlemen, Evil does exist. And the whole reason that I decided that we were going to do an episode 666 is because I did not want to pretend that evil no longer exists in the world. Evil is real, and we need to acknowledge it. We need to understand it. That's like saying, I'm going to cure cancer by pretending that cancer doesn't exist. If I just whistle loud enough and hum happy tunes and say, there is no cancer, cancer doesn't exist, it won't happen, right? No. Refusing to acknowledge evil does not make evil go away. Thinking happy thoughts and saying things like, well, every person has a right to their opinion, and no one is absolutely good and no one is absolutely bad. People are just people. That does not protect you from evil. Pretending that evil does not exist does not protect you from it. Actually, what it does is it allows evil to flourish and to grow to the point that you can no longer ignore it. So the lesson for today, ladies and gentlemen, is even though you will see from the left and the liberals and the socialists of the world, they will try and convince you that there's no such thing as sin, there's no such thing as good and bad, there's no such thing as the devil or evil. It's just what you want. We all have feelings and choices, and everyone's choice is valid. Everyone's decision is valid. No, it's not. There is good and there is evil. And failing to acknowledge that is not going to protect you from it. All right, kids. Thank you for joining us for Student of the Gun Radio today. I truly appreciate you being here. Remember, you're a beginner once. You should indeed be a student for life.